Hi guys, this is Christy Fulk with Create with Christy. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the US. Well, I'm back with my last Halloween project for my 12 weeks of Fall and Halloween for 2024. And I made a little, this one fits the Reese's miniature cups perfectly, 3 of them. And that's what's underneath my booze right there. So if you'd like to make this little treat box with me, just look down the video description below and click on that blog post link. And there you'll find the supply list and the paper dimensions you need to make this project. And then you can come back and make it with me. Okay, let's get started. Okay, first off, I want to show you what stamps we need. So here's the Playful Ghosts. The ones I'm using the pumpkin and the little bat stamp right there. And I'm also using the Halloween Memories stamp set. This is part of the scrapbooking line that Stampin' Up! Has now. And I'm using the Trick or Treat stamp. I'm also using the Stylish Shapes dies. I use these all the time. And I want the number 2 circle die. So 1 is the number 1. So there's number 2. So the second smallest one is what you need. And I'm also using the mini alphabet stamp dies, and I'm going to use this big, large one with all the letters. Okay, first off, I want to get a little stamping done. So I'm going to grab my Tuxedo Black Memento and the pumpkin stamp. Go ahead and twist on the stamp with the ink pad because that helps it ink up a lot better. I'm going to stamp this right here in the middle. Doesn't have to be perfect because it is going to be fussy cutted here in just a minute. Put that to the side. Now I want to grab a piece of basic white, 4 by 1 inch. And I'm going to get my Trick or Treat stamp. I'm going to ink it the same way, twisting, so it gets inked up really, really good, and then tap. And I'm going to stamp this near the middle. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to do a little cutting on this too. Hold that down. And that is ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and put this away. We're all done with the Tuxedo Black Memento pad. I'm going to do a little coloring of this. I'm going to bring in my pumpkin pie blends. I'm going to take the dark pumpkin pie, and where the little valleys, I'm not sure what you call those in the pumpkin. You want to do the dark pumpkin pie with that. And I'm kind of jiggling it just a little bit. I don't want it to be a straight line. It doesn't look quite realistic when you do that. So I've got enough of the dark for those. And I'm going to grab the light pumpkin pie, color in the rest of the pumpkins, and I'm going over the dark just a little bit to blend those 2 shades in. Okay, I'm got all done. I can tell some of the dark is just a little bit too dark still, so I'm going to go over it. I'm intentionally not going over all of the light areas, just because it kind of gives me a 3-tone effect rather than just the 2-tone, and have a couple little highlights there doing it that way. Now I'm going to bring in my Granny Apple Green. I'm going to use the light Granny Apple Green and color in this little leaf right here. I'm not going to do any blending with these greens. I just want the leaf to be a little lighter and the stems to be a little darker. So here, color those in with a dark Granny Apple Green. And that is ready to go. That's all the coloring we need to do. I do need to do some fussy cutting. And a trick with fussy cutting, you move the cardstock or the paper more than you do your scissors. So you open up the scissors, start cutting. When I get up to the pumpkin, then I start moving the paper a little bit without moving the scissors. That gives me a smoother curve when I'm cutting rather than a choppy one. And then when I get up to the leaf, I'm going to stop right there at the leaf, kind of turn it, and then I'll start cutting again. And just go ahead and keep doing the same thing, moving the cardstock mainly, and stopping every once in a while to open up your scissors, of course. But cut it the rest of the way, moving the paper the most. Okay, the pumpkin's all done. We're done with that, the major fussy cutting. We are going to cut these apart a little bit because this was just too long for my project. So I'm going to be actually cutting off these little dashes here. So go right in between the K and the dash. It can be straight, it can be curved. I kind of angled it a little bit on purpose. And because this is so close to the edge, I want the T to be real close to the edge too to look a little better. Just kind of angle it a little bit on purpose. Like I said, if you're trying to make it straight, it doesn't look right. So purposely make it angle a little bit and it looks a little better. I'm going to take the O, the or, cut these at an angle too. And I didn't like all of the white that's up here, so I'm going to cut this so these are about the same width, the white areas. Doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the treat. Cut off that line at an angle, and then cut this so that they look a little bit, so the T's are near the edge of the paper. And now you need to get your die cutting machine out. Okay, to get our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine ready, you need the base platform number 1 and a die plate number 2. Now, when I do my die cutting, you always need the 2 standard cutting plates when you die cut. I usually have one for the cutting plate, and this one is nice and smooth so I can see through it. And then when this one gets too warped and too cut up, then I will make this be my cutting one and get a new one out for my top one. Now, with this, it's easier to do it so the blades are facing up. So I want to think backwards now. So I'm going to put my nice smooth one here on the bottom. Then put the die, the big die right there. I grabbed 2 pieces of basic black. These are just scraps. But if you want the sizes, this one is 3/4 by 1, I do believe. Yes, 3/4 by 1. That's going to go over the B. And then there are 2 O's, which I'm so glad they've got 2 O's. And this piece is a 1 1/4 by 1 inch piece. So just cover those letters up that you need. Then I put the one that's cut up on top, making sure the paper doesn't move. I'm going to hold it down just a little bit until both of these are under here, or have at least gone through. There we go. Now that one's in, so I know it's not going to move. Get this out of the way. And then we can take all these little pieces off of here, throw it in my trash. Now, sometimes when you get these, when you want to take those negative pieces out, they might be a little stuck. Can't really get a hold of it, and I can tell it's happening here. I'm going to take your pick tool, and it just pops right out. It's just because you can't get your finger in there. That little sharp thing goes in and helps a lot. Same with these little half pieces. Sometimes you have to do that too and dig them out. There we go. And to get the letters out, I can see some black here, so I know I need to poke those through. And here's some black in these. That should take care of those O's. Yep. I want to make sure there's no cardstock in there because it'll cut a lot better next time. I don't see any in there, so that's ready to go. Here is my B and my 2 O's. And I forgot I do need to do some more die cutting. We've got some circles to cut. So bring your die cutting machine back out. Get it set up. I've got my die plate in the base platform. This time I'm die cutting normal, so I'm going to put my cutting one down at the bottom again. I'm going to grab the 4 squares of DSP that I had on my list. They're all 1.5 by 1.5 inch squares. So actually, I want to stack those. That's right. Because there's only one die, and this is paper, so the die will go through all 3 layers. With cardstock, I can get away with this one. Some dies you only want 1 layer, but this one the Stylish Shapes ones, you can actually go through 2 layers of cardstock usually. Sometimes I might have it go through twice, but normally I just have to do it once. With this being paper, I can actually get through 3 at once. So just make sure they're stacked up pretty good. They don't have to be perfect. You don't want to see a color underneath too much. If you see a little bitty sliver, it's fine because you can tell the circle is a little bit smaller because the blade is actually in the middle of that steel that you're seeing. Then put this other standard cutting plate on top and run these through. You only need to do it one time. There we go. These just pop right out. Now they are kind of stuck together because you can see the little, oh, sorry, I got out of the screen. You see the little stitching right there? Just kind of bend them a little bit and that kind of separates them. And they come apart a lot easier. So there's the Gorgeous Grape one, the Pumpkin Pie one, and the Granny Apple Green one. Now we're all done die cutting, so put this away and we'll make this box. Make sure you get your Simply Scored scoring tool out next. Okay, I've got my Simply Scored scoring tool out. I'm going to take a piece of Granny Apple Green. This is 5 1/4 by 2 3/4 with a 5 1/4 inch side along the top. Make sure you get it right up against the top and side edge here. That way you know you've gotten the right spot. Get the stylus out. You want to use the narrow end of the stylus because that works best for cardstock. The wider one is better for thinner paper like DSP so it doesn't tear it up. Now you need to score this at 3/4 inch. So that is right there. I'm going to do it a couple times just to make sure I've got a good crease. And then the other one is at 4.5. So there's the 4.5 inch. Turn this a 90-degree angle. Now the 2 3/4 side is on top. I'm going to do it 3/4 inches again. And then I'm going to do it at 2 inches. Okay, so this one is ready to go. Grab a piece of the window sheet. It's the exact same size. It's 5 1/4 by 2 3/4. Put this all the way up in the corner. Score again at 3/4. And I'm going to do this a few times because the window sheet's a little harder to get that score line. You want to make sure you've got a good score line because it helps later. Now do the 4.5. Do it a few times. Like I said, I'm pushing pretty hard to get that in there good. Rotate it so you've got the 2 3/4 inch on top. Let's do the 3/4. Try and get it so where you can see what I'm doing. There's the 3/4. Once again, do it a few times, pushing down really hard. And then at 2 inches. Now I'm going to keep this on my scoring tool because I found out that you can see a lot better when it's on here. When I was doing that, I'm like, well, I can really see those score lines. When I first made this, I was doing this over my desk and it wasn't dark enough and I could barely see the score lines and it was hard to see where I was cutting. So definitely have something dark underneath. Like you can even use black cardstock would work great. Now I'm going to grab my paper snips again. And hopefully you can see there are, well, let me put it down here, I think you can see better. 4 square tabs here. We need to make those into tabs. So with the short end here on the bottom, I'm going to go right up, cut along that score line and stop at that intersecting one right there. So I'll have 4 little tabs. I'm going to do that in all 4 corners. Okay, now I'm going to want to taper these sides a little bit. That helps with putting this together later. Whenever you see boxes, you can tell that the little tabs are tapered a little bit. So it's not all bulky. So I'm going to go about 1/8 of an inch, put it at an angle, but have the end cut be right here where those 2 score lines intersect. Sometimes you have to kind of yank that little piece out. And if it doesn't want to come, like mine isn't, so just kind of bend it back. That means I didn't get right up there, but that's okay. There we go. Now it's coming off. And then you want to do the other side. So once again, I'm going to go in about 1/8 of an inch, go up to that score line, and cut that off like so. So you're going to do that with all 4 tabs. Okay, I'm going to get those little pieces out of the way. Let's go ahead and put this one together. The green one's going to go together just like this one. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my bone folder. First, I'm going to fold on these long pieces. Now, I'm going to kind of do the opposite of what I do with cardstock. I found out the little valley that we just made actually should be the inside of the score line. Normally, that's not the way you do it. But there's something about the plastic with this. It works better that way. And it kind of helps to look at these 2 score lines and see if they line up. That way you know you've got it straight. Because it is a little harder to see the score lines. They don't want to bend quite as well. But it's definitely easier to do these long ones first. I'm going to kind of open that up again. Bring this down. Make sure those score lines look like they're lined up. Then I know this is straight. I kind of do it with my fingers a little bit first and then do my bone folder. So now I can open these up. I'm going to take this little one here. Fold the center one. Like so. Then I can do these little tabs, like so. Actually, you could burnish before you cut your tabs too, for that matter. There we go. Then we'll do the other end. I'm going to do the center one first. And I'm also kind of looking at the edges of this little tab of the side here, lining them up with the long score line. That makes it know I've got it straight. And then the little tabs right there. And oops, that little piece didn't pop off when I cut it. There we go. I didn't think it did, but I couldn't find it. There we go. So now that we can see what's going on here, I'm going to get that out of the way. I'm actually, now that this is a flatter surface, I'm going to open these little tabs up a little bit. Fold right on this long score line again, because I want it to be nice and sharp, and it was a little hard to get it sharp on the scoring tool. So if you've got black cardstock underneath so you can see your score lines better, you're going to have a flat surface, so you probably won't have to do this again. But I want to make sure I get really, really, really good crease. So if it seems like it's still not wanting to stay folded, then you might want to do it one more time. I got this little, this part is a little easier because you've already made those folds. So it's a lot easier to see. Okay. Those are all ready to go. What I'm going to do, I found out that our Seal Plus actually looks better on the window sheet. So these little tabs that we made here, do the one on one end. I'm going to take, let's take the lid off. I'm going to take this, I'm keeping my finger under it, and just putting a little string, not really string, but a strip of the Seal Plus on there. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Okay. If you have any sticking out, like I've got one sticking out here, because this is kind of, with it being an extra strong adhesive, sometimes the tabs don't cut. They're pretty thick. So just kind of fold that over, because you don't want that hanging over the edge of the tab, because then whenever you put it on your box, it might get stuck. So this tab, both of these tabs are going to go behind this one. So kind of bring this one out. Now, the straight edge of this side, I want it to line up with that score line of the tab. So I'm going to do it this way. Get those lined up. Push. Do the same thing with this one, the edge with the score line. And then squeeze them really good. Now, I found you want to make sure that you cut your tabs on the short ends. I did it on the long ends one time, and it kept wanting to pop open. If you've got these together on the short end, like we did, it works so much better, and they stay together a lot better. There's just too much for it to pop off when you've got attached to the big one. So that's why I'm doing both of them on this small one. So when you do your cutting, make sure that you do it on that short end to make your tabs. That's why I was telling you to make sure it was a short end when I had you cut. Do the same thing again. Get that score line lined up with the tab. Do the same thing with this one. So now we've got our lid done. I'm going to bring this in. We're not going to do any cutting yet. Now, when I do cardstock with the score lines, I want the mountains on top this time. So I'm going to go ahead and make all these folds, get those burnished. I think it's easier to do this. Now, this time I'm actually doing the scoring before I do my tabs. So these are you're seeing both ways you can do this. So I'm going to do the burnishing before I do my cutting, because we're going to do this just like we did the lid. So those are all ready to go. Do that short end again, because it does keep it together better. Cut along that score line and stop at the intersecting score line. Do that on the other side, like so. And then we want to taper them, so go in 1/4 of an inch and stop at the top, angle it so where the two score lines intersect. And then here you go up to the score line on the edge. And there you have your taper tab. So do that to all 4 square tabs. Okay, we've got all of those done. Before we start putting this together, though, I wanted to have some bats on this. Now, the reason I'm stamping last, did all the scoring and the cutting first. When we put this together, these are going to be facing different directions. So like if I stamped all over this with the bats going the same direction, this side they'd be in the right direction, this side they would be upside down. So that's why you do all the scoring, get the cutting done. I'm going to grab you do not have to use the Pierce mat. I do it with all my stamping because this is our cling, which has some padding on it. So it's not necessarily needed, but I think it stamps a lot better when you use it. I'm going to use a scrap piece of paper here because I'm going to be stamping off the cardstock and I don't want to get ink on this. You can clean it off, but it's a lot easier just to have the paper underneath it. So this is Granny Apple Green cardstock and Granny Apple Green ink. And now I'll ink up my bat. And it's okay if you get some on the tabs, and it's okay if you get a little bit here. These are going to be completely covered up and nobody's going to see them anyway. So I'm going to kind of go off, kind of turn them a little bit. I didn't want them going upside down. If you want some to go upside down, you go right ahead. I'm just going all the way across here. Okay. Now you always do the top. Okay. So I'm going to turn this. So now this one's on top. So I'm mainly just doing these straight sides. These are going to be the sides of the box. Turn it around here. Now I'm going to do this top one. And just keep doing it until you're all done. Okay, that looks good to me. So I'll go ahead, close this. That's all the stamping we need to do. So now we can start putting this one together. So once again, I'm going to take, this time I'm going to use tear and tape. I think it works better with the cardstock, especially when it's humid. It's a little hot today, and when I was doing this on cardstock earlier, it kind of tore up my cardstock. So if it's humid at all, I would suggest using tear and tape. But this worked perfectly with the window sheet because the tear and tape showed a lot more when I tried to use it on the window sheet. It looks a lot better with the Steel Plus. So I'm putting these at an angle. So we're only going to put it on the tabs. I'm not going to put any adhesive on any of the others. The reason I can do all 4 of them this time is because we've got that paper backing, so I don't have to worry about it sticking anywhere. Okay, so now we'll do one, so we might as well do this one. I'm going to grab my Take Your Pick tool again. I'm going to push and make sure that adhesive is down really well. Go about the middle. Take that paper backing off nice and easy. Do the same thing with this one. Okay. Now we're going to put it together the same way. The tabs kind of go back. The straight edge of this edge is going to go along the score line. And then you connect the tab. Same thing here. Get that score line lined up with the edge of the side. There we go. Now we'll do it here so we can take the tape off, the paper backing, off of here. Let's kind of jiggle it to get it loose. Do that over here. Okay. I get hold of it. There we go. The straight side lined up with the score line. The straight edge lined up with the score line. There. And now that box is ready, so put that over to the side for right now. I think I'm going to grab this piece of Granny Apple Green. This one is a 3 3/4 by 3 inch piece. Then grab a piece of the Halloween Spells DSP again. This one is 3.5 by 1.5. And don't worry about all these sizes. I forgot to tell you this at the beginning. I have all of the dimensions. Oh, I kind of said it at the beginning. But all the dimensions are on my blog post link. So just click that link below in the video description so you don't have to write all these down. So I'm going to turn this over. If you'd rather use this side, you go right ahead. But I wanted to brighten it up a little bit, so I'm using the pool party. Now I'm just going to use regular seal here. And I'm going to put this along the top. But I want the border of the Granny Apple Green that's going to be showing to be the same width on the sides and the top. So I'm kind of lightly putting this on here, kind of holding up the bottom, as you can tell. That looks lined up pretty good, so now I can put the whole thing down. I'm going to bring in my Trick or Treat and my pumpkin, if I can find it. There we go. He was hiding. I'm going to turn my pumpkins over, and I'm going to put dimensionals on there. I love how that looks on the back, too. I can put a full dimensional on that big pumpkin. That little one needs a half one. So this little border that's along here, all of these are connected, these little half ones. So I'm going to take my scissors and cut in between a couple of them. And I've got a little half dimensional now, and that can do this little pumpkin here. Okay, so that is ready to go. The oar is going to be popped up too, so I'm going to turn it over, grab a dimensional, put it right there in the middle. Now bring this down. I'm going to put the pumpkin down first. That's going to help me with putting my Trick or Treat down later. And it's just going to go right here in the bottom right corner of the DSP. And I know my Trick or Treat, I kind of want around here And the or is going to go in between, like so. Maybe I'll angle that up a little bit. So I'm going to turn this over, put my seal on here. And I'm just laying it down. I'm not going to put it down, push it down just yet in case I want to move it. A lot of times I need to move things later on if I don't like exactly where I put it. And this one's going to be near the top here. Once again, let's see if that's going to work. And it is. I could trim the top of this. If you want it a little shorter, you definitely can, but I think it's going to be just fine. I'm okay if it covers up that T just a little bit. Oh, that looks fine. Now, I want to make sure the bottom things don't go past the bottom of the DSP. It's okay if it goes up above the top, because we're going to be putting our box right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take some tear and tape. And you know what? I go back and forth. You could put tear and tape on here, or you can put it on the back of the box. I think I'm going to do it this way. So I'm going to find the end here. There it is. Now, I will just put some tear tape right along the long edges of the bottom of the box that we just made. Okay. And then I'll do it over here. Okay. Make sure that's down really good. Now I'm going to take, oops, still had a backing on there. Take the paper backing off. Like so. As you can tell, I don't go all the way to the end when I start taking the paper backing off. I used to do that, and I'd almost always lift up the adhesive too. It's better to start here down a little bit away from the edge. Now I'm going to take this, and I'm going to line up the bottom edge, so make sure all your stamping is down here away from the box. I'm going to line this edge up with my box. That's a little bit, that's okay though. I can tell I still have a little bit of an edge of the box there, but it looks just fine. Oh yeah, that's fine. Just as long as it's close. Okay, now we need to get our candy ready. So I've got my 3 miniature Reese cups. I want to grab those circles. And I like to have it doesn't matter what order or color you do it. I wanted the green one, though, to be in the middle. Since this is all green, I thought it looked a little better to have a little more color on the ends. I'm going to grab my letters. The reason you want to think that through before you put definitely your B. Make sure you've got your first one correct. With the O's, it doesn't matter. You can swap those. I'm going to turn my B over. I'm going to put it on with some multi-purpose glue, and I'm just going to put dots. Just little dots here. I think it's a little easier to do dots than lines sometimes. And these little dots will squish out a little bit, but they're not going to ooze out the sides because they're so small. Then I'm going to put the bottom of my B here, make sure it looks like it's in the middle. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to push the rest of it down. Now I'm going to put my O's the same way. I want to make sure, okay, this side is smoother than this side, so my rougher side is what the side I want to put the glue on. Put little dots here. The B you can tell because it would look backwards if you did it wrong. O's, it's hard to tell. Okay, so I've got my little dots of glue on there. Put the bottom down here. See if I've got it centered. Might want to move it a little bit. That looks good. The nice thing with glue, you can kind of move it around a little bit when it's still wet. Once it dries, though, and you've put a pressure on it, it's not going to move again. Okay, there's my smooth side. So put the glue on the rough side. Bring in my last circle. Put that right there. Okay. And now I'm going to take a little bit of tear and tape. The seal would probably still work. I want it to stay on. They're still going to be able to take these off and take their candy off, no problem. But until then, I want it to look cute. So I'm going to put a couple little strips of tear and tape on here. You could also use that Seal Plus if you wanted to. Get these ready. But since I'm worried about, because it's so humid in my office right now, I'm making Halloween and fall projects, and it's 91 degrees here in Indiana. It's crazy. It's supposed to start cooling off tomorrow. I'm ready for the fall temperatures. So, push those down, make sure the seal's on, the seal is attached really, really well. Get my Take Your Pick tool again. Now this time it doesn't matter that all the Reese cups are the same. So I'm just going to grab this one. This one happens to be an O. And I'm going to put it right over and then push it down. Do the same thing here. I was amazed. At first I was going to use the deckled circle dies, and none of the circles were really the right size. And then when I got my Stylish Shapes ones out, I'm like, oh, that circle is perfect. It covers it up. I mean, that's like it was made for it. Then I'm going to take the paper backing off here. There we go. And this one will go on top of this one. Okay, now I'm going to bring my box in. Get my boos in there. And like I said, I like the green one in the middle. Put those right in there. Then this will go right on top. Because this is the lid. It actually does not get tucked in. You might have to push the corner of the green one just a little bit. Once it does that, then it goes on easy the rest of the time. And there we go. I could have made the lid a little bit bigger, but when I did, it was so loose it wouldn't stay on. So this works a lot better having them both be the same size. You just have to kind of manipulate the last corner just a little bit, and then it goes on easy from there on out. But it stays on nice for when you hand it to somebody. So I hope you enjoyed my last Halloween project for 12 Weeks to Fall on Halloween. And if you'd like to stamp along with me again, make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Just click that subscribe button. And then when you see the bell icon, select all. That way YouTube will notify you every time I do a video so you don't miss one. And when I go live, and I do that every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, if you live in the United States and do not have a demonstrator of your own, I would love to be yours. And then I would love to send out your first set of catalogs to you for free. That's the annual catalog, and that's the September to December that just came out that has all the holiday stuff in it. Now, the Halloween products that I used are in the online exclusive section of the online store, and that link is down below in the video description. Now, I forgot to tell you, if you want these catalogs, click that contact me link below and give me your mailing address, and I'll get those mailed out to you right away. So there's the project one more time. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have fun making all my Halloween projects. I've got links to a couple of the others that I've done. If you want to see all of the designs in the Halloween Spells DSP, make sure you check out week number 4 of my 2024 series, because that's the one where I show all the designs in the paper so you can see that. But then if you want to see all my past ones from years past, I've got the playlist linked down there to all my 12 Weeks to Fall on Halloween. So I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.